Barely escaping abduction when she was a child, in a country that was controlled by Communist Dictatorship, our guest today started out fighting for her life. As she grew up in Santiago, she was invited to learn about the fight for freedom. That began a life of activism, human rights protection, and a passion for cultural integration and celebration. After escaping her communist homeland and coming to Canada, Isabel built an amazing community full of art, culture, and celebration. She is the founder and artistic director of Neruda Arts, running music festivals, art programs, and cultural events. She is truly an innovator, a founder, and an artist. If anyone can talk to the road from F my life, to fix my life, to find my life, it's this amazing woman. Please grab an eco coffee and sit back and listen to our guest, Isabel Cisterna. Welcome to the Founders Music Lab, the home of the FML, where we talk to people about how they found their lives and their purpose and the road to happiness. I'm your founder guy, Bill, and I'm joined by the music guy, Steve Lehmann.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for coming.
I'm the guy who brought the microphones.
I know.
So
I need you. And the coffee guy, Ed Denier.
Hola, Bill.
Hola, Ed. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Always a pleasure.
All right. So we're joined today by someone Steve and Ed have both known and have praised quite a bit. And I really wanted to get to know our guest. When they said they would contact her to see if she would join us, I couldn't wait. This is my first time meeting her. She's the founder of Neruda Arts, a nonprofit organization committed to bringing the world of art to our region. I think that's a simplification, and as we get to talk, it'll get a lot deeper, because we were talking before we started recording, and there's no way I could have fit all that in my head. So this will be a very, very wild and interesting and great podcast. So I hope you enjoy it very much. So now I'd like to welcome today's guest, Isabel Cisterna.
It's a pleasure being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Isabel. We always start in the same format. Ed's the one that actually knows you, and I don't know you, but we're going to start the same way anyways. So Ed, if you want to take it away.
Can we do this in Spanish?
Yes, try it. No, do it, please.
Hola, Isabel. ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, muy bien, gracias.
No, just kidding. So usually I talk about my curiosity with people is I have this little world that you once in a while step into, and you know of it, and you know what I do and how I do it. But my curiosity is always, what are people doing in their worlds? So I know what I have to do when I have to do it, and usually I have no idea what I have to do, but it's always in the same vein. So what I like to ask people is, just give us a little bit of an idea of what is a day in the life of Isabel. So it could be today, it could be last week when you had 1 million balls up in the air. It doesn't really matter, but it's to give people some insight as to what a normal day for you is like.
I think the word normal is probably not in my vocabulary. What I strive to do every day, and I do it mostly poorly, is to have balance, which it doesn't come easy because the work that I do is very cyclical. I have 3 festivals a year, concert series, and I'm very involved in activities, and I have so many interests too, which it could be like the death of me, because sometimes I don't know how to restrain myself when I love something or when I'm curious about something. I'm also a person who, if someone comes with an idea, before they finish talking, I already have 10 ways in which we can make this work. So I tend to get involved in other people's ideas as well, because part of my personality is also how I can help someone else with their dreams, and with even if the aspirations are as simple as finding an apartment or getting a mattress. I am always thinking how I can be of service to other people. I don't think a lot from day to day about what my day is going to be like. I usually set a few kind of simple benchmarks, because on top of working a lot, I have 3 children, all with very different ages. My daughter Moira is 30, my son Emilio is 21, and my youngest is 8. So at one point I had one in university, one in middle school, and one in daycare, right?
And one in diapers.
Exactly. But I also, and it's really hard to explain to people that a lot of my relationships are outside of even Waterloo region. I have lots of really good friends around the world that I've made through my work and my projects. So I feel that my days are never the same. I always, because inevitably you find someone who says, "How do you do it, Isabel? Like, it seems like you have this boundless amount of energy," which I don't. I'm like an iPhone 6. I have 30% battery most of the days, and I'm pretty much dead by 9 o'clock. So I don't have a lot of energy. I just spend it in a way that sometimes, and I feel lately in the last 5 years, I recognize more when I need to take a break. What I do have is this commitment to try to be an okay parent, an okay at work, an okay friend. I often tell people when they say, "Well, you seem to do so much." Yeah, but that comes at a cost. Sometimes when I'm doing really well at work, the piles of laundry in my house are endless. And I feel like I don't know where to start. And when I'm doing great at work, and every day we get like home-cooked meals, I have 500 emails to respond, and people on my back saying, "Did you hear this? Did you answer me? Can you blah, blah, blah?" So I don't stress as I used to when I was younger. I don't strive to be amazing at anything. I also have learned, and this comes from a long story, but I went and did a master class in Korea about 3 years ago. And most of my time that I spent in a temple, I found myself realizing that I was wasting my energy, my precious 30% energy, right? And now it feels like I hear people and I talk to people and I go about my day, but I know better now how to do my splurges. And that's what's saving my brain right now, because there are so many challenges.
What a great point. I mean, we live in a day that's just whirlwind after whirlwind, and we're just bombarded by so many things.
And I wish I could tell you that I am one of those. I saw a long time ago, prior to the pandemic, this magazine of women that said something like the most amazing women in Waterloo region. And I don't know if you remember, it was a short-lived...
40 under 40?
No, it was like a pamphlet of exceptional women. And each woman, which, by the way, it lacked a lot of diversity in these exceptional women, 100% diversity. They all started their day at 5:30 in the morning, and then they ran in their treadmill, and then they had their water with the special salts by 6 a.m. and da. Honestly, that's not me.
Oh no, that's Instagram.
Yeah, that's Instagram. That's exactly.
It was like the women.
You talk about this. This is the thing that makes women not happy.
Well,
is hearing all these stories saying this is how you're going to be happy. No,
well,
it's not.
I looked at it, and it seemed like the benchmark for happiness, that in order to be amazing, you had to get up at 5 in the morning, and you had to be with your makeup and your clothing ready by getting out to be the CEO of something. And in the meantime,
Have a baby.
have a great meal, and all those things. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yes. She
But
said it. She said the word.
what you're
yes.
really saying is that I can be an amazing woman now.
You could probably
I
be.
wake up at 5.
You could be better than me.
That's the
You have to
P,
go
right?
to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So you asked me about my day. I wake up every day wishing to have another half an hour in bed. With the grace of my husband, who brings me a coffee, I wake up, and then from that moment on, I basically ninja my day until the end of the day, and I try to be good at
Balanced.
at keeping some balance. And I can say that out of 7 days, a good week would be when I have 3 days where I feel that it all went well with the balance. But I don't beat myself up
But
for
here's
it
an
anymore.
interesting thing, and that's the way you're living now. You're still accomplishing so much. And I think that is testimony to your ability to not get caught up in things that are wasted. You're probably a lot more efficient with who you respond to, what you respond to, why you respond to it.
I wish I could take the credit for that, but I think a lot of my accomplishments are not my accomplishments. They have to do
That's lovely.
with
Yeah.
the amount of great people that I surrender myself with. And those are the people who, they do the Jenga with me.
Yeah.
And we all put a little piece of wood
Yeah.
until someone takes one out and we all fall apart, right? We all do the Jenga together. And that is the reason why Neruda Arts as an organization can do so much with so few people, overworked, underpaid. Is because every single person that is involved in the stuff that I do puts so much heart into it. They believe
Right.
not only in the organization, but they believe in me.
Right.
And because they believe in me, I also have a great responsibility with them to create things that they can always feel proud of. So I accomplish, yes, but I accomplish just like my other colleagues accomplish with me. It's just that I'm more the face of it.
That's brilliant. Hey, we've heard this before. We had Ken Sealing on a couple episodes ago talking about how he didn't take any of the credit, but it was the leadership, and it's just that sense of and I understand what you're saying. You couldn't do this without them,
Absolutely not. I think
and you're grateful and gracious for having them.
I am. I also place a lot of trust in them.
Right.
So my leadership, if you wanted to call it that way, comes from giving people a reason to rise up.
Yeah.
I never doubt people's their qualities and their ideas, and often than not, I give people a lot of rope. But I never expect them to hang themselves with it, because I often feel that even when they don't even know it, they rise up in a way that it always surprises me. So I fought so hard to have an office in a performing space. It was my dream for over 20 years. And when I finally accomplished it was during the pandemic. And now no one comes to the office. I'm the only one there, right? Because everyone has learned to work from home and loving it.
Yeah.
I don't really, my style is I don't really care when or where people do it. I often just tell them this is what we need done, and then I just check on things. So it is a testament that there are lots of people who are so capable and they have similar dreams. And they also, they get such a kick out of it too.
That's such an interesting point, because I've seen all these corporations, these large organizations where they get incredible people, and you just get the wrong person in there to manage them, and you sort of stifle the energy and the excitement and the desire to grow and learn, almost to the point where either they quit or they're just putting their heads on a post before they walk in the door and then pick it up on the way out, and they find their life elsewhere. It's really unfortunate that corporations get to that level. And I know a lot of people in the corporate world who get out and they join small businesses, and they're making half the money that they used to. They have relationships now with the owners and with the people they're working with that give them so much more than they ever had in a large corporate setting. So what you're saying is,
it's important to
critical for
have good
happiness.
culture inside of any company,
Oh,
small or
absolutely.
large. And culture is not about having a barista. No offense to the baristas, they're really needed.
I'm in trouble.
But,
maybe
you
they
know,
should have a barista, but not a ping pong table.
This is the thing, is that for a moment in time, I believed that sort of pipe dream that many municipalities had, that tech and art would make a good marriage, that bringing all these tech companies will actually support the arts environment and the ecology, couldn't be further from the truth.
We talked about that with Ken too.
And
I was a tech company, and I was the only one supporting
I mean,
the
one,
arts.
one of the things that I have, let me interject here, is that there is something to be said about people like you, and we've had a common theme with people that we've interviewed over the first 10 episodes. But we are the special sauce that creates that community. So you said you're 30% energy. That's the sauce that brings it all together. And that's what makes you special. And that's what makes, the small entrepreneur special, because it's not something that's tangible that you can say it's this or it's that. It's that ability to coax others to buy into a thought process that creates the community. And that is what's special. But that's not your 9-to-5 corporate person, typically. So you do have a marriage there that's not going to be very functional, because they're driven by, as Bill has said many times, they're driven by other edicts. They're not about creating that something special. They're about creating dollars, or they're creating product, or they're creating volumes. And so they forget that in order to get the best of people, you have to actually engage and interact with them in a special way to bring out that their qualities that they may not even know they have.
And I think part of it is that short sight that many of them have, because they are chasing their product. They have to meet their target. They have to keep the funders happy. But they forget about something very special, which is the human aspect of the culture within, and also the mental health. When the tech companies moved in, and this huge carrot, like the size of the Eiffel Tower, was dangled, many of us, we were really hopeful for a moment, because we thought we were going to get finally that corporate support, corporate sponsorship that people had been talking about for so long. And I made it a point to go and visit some of those tech companies, because, okay, I figure if these guys are not coming out, we're going to come to them. And I'm going to go and see if I can set up a concert in a corner in their lunch or something to kind of disrupt the environment as it was. And what I found made me so depressed. It was not about, like, most of the people who gave me the tours were so proud of what they had created. And to me, it was nothing but sadness when I came out of there, because all I saw was people being brought their lunch to their desk, having their barista in this space, having after-hour meals, having a fridge and these snack bars that they spent more in snacks per day per person that that I could ever dreamed of. Like if only one day of their snack bar could purchase a performance and pay a band of 7, right? Just to be on the small side. But what happened is the mental health of those people who did not leave their desks, had no connection whatsoever with the communities that were in. Mm-hmm. Many of them were brought in from other places, so they never got to have any roots in our area. They never got to interact, make friendships, make relationships. And then 6 months into it, they were completely burnt out with mental health out. And then somebody comes in.
Yeah, they're like tissues. They just toss them aside.
People, the managers of these companies and the owners or the brains behind it were so proud of having a little swing, having the foosballs for entertainment. And to me, it was just like adding a few bells and whistles to a lab rat or a rat lab. And so when I asked them, okay, like let's sit down for a moment and let's talk in real terms. Most of you want to recruit, retain, right? And build something here. And often you are complaining that when you look around, this isn't Barcelona, this isn't, the cultural hub that you wished you came to. But yet you do squat to help it, to help any of us build it. You just want it to be there for you. And at the end, if we build it, what's the point? You don't let your people leave. They are stuck with you until they're so tired they need to go to bed. There's nothing healthy about the environments that we have created in the region with that particular sector.
It's very contrary to how this region got developed in the first place.
Absolutely.
Because we talked with Ken about that.
And they failed to see the connection with arts and culture.
Yeah.
And they failed to see that sense of belonging
With
and that
stewardship.
well-being. Because at the end, like Eddie said, that person who has so much to give, finally, that person burns out because it is completely disconnected with reality. And that sense of ownership that they may have had in the beginning, coming to this company, feeling like I have so much to give, I have all this energy to build something, it dies very fast. So even if they weren't thinking in terms of the well-being of their workers, they could think of the well-being of their company. Their company would succeed a lot better and a lot more if there was balance, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not 100% balance, but even 30% balance.
Yeah.
That to me has been the biggest issue because on top of that...
That's funny. It's been like I was a techie. I own tech companies. And so I looked at it from the other perspective. I grew up in this region, so I knew about stewardship. And I saw all of these tech companies coming in and all of these outsiders coming in to run these companies and all this outside money coming in demanding performance and pushing on these things, and an organization that was developed to basically serve that process with expecting the community to bend over backwards but doing nothing for it.
Absolutely.
And I was the only, it drove me crazy. It absolutely drove me crazy because I was trying to do it, fix it from the inside. And it wasn't going to happen because these people are come and go.
I feel that, the damage that was caused, no one has taken responsibility for it. There was a lot of hurt. Because on top of that, people built their businesses around these companies, thinking that people were going to patronize their restaurants, their coffee shops, the little, moms and pops. And they did nothing of the sort. Arts companies began to believe that there was a partnership there.
Yeah.
But there was a partnership that wasn't, reciprocal. And then on top of that, we would go to municipalities or even the region. I remember Ken being in one of those meetings where, we are asking for support or more support And they're saying, well, you're double dipping because we already are giving X amount of companies and organizations funding. So you should be supported by them. And the answer was, no, we're not. So they took away funding that was for the arts and put it in other pots
Ken
because
talks about
they thought that
Yeah.
it was going to trickle, and it didn't. And that set us back, I would say, a good 10 years.
Yeah.
And so you add that you add pandemic to it, and then you see the demise of many great arts organizations, because people right now are hurting, and there is a lot of healing that needs to take place.
Yes.
And many of us, and I would say myself, I'm going to speak only for myself, I keep going, but I still feel the burden and the hurt that caused. And that motivated me also to move to St. Jacobs, because I wanted to get away from all of that happened.
I joined the Elmira Kiwanis group because, quite frankly, the service groups just aren't there. I mean, they're not. I mean, there's some good people there trying to do stuff, but Waterloo is not the community that we used to be. And now, but it exists in Elmira and St. Jacobs, and that fills my soul. And I think I already know friends who have sold their houses in Waterloo and moved to Elmira because of that. We grew up in that world of servitude, that world of collaboration, community, engagement, support. Yeah, I try to get people to like and share of our podcasts, and I'll have some close friends that do it, but it's a vacuum in Waterloo, and I've got a lot of connections. There's just none of that reciprocity that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That is absolutely necessary for a community to thrive and grow. I hope it comes back. I hope it heals in the Waterloo region. That's why we're doing this for us. That's why you're doing what you're doing.
I'm putting my trust on the few young.
Well, one of the things
Yeah.
that I was going to bring up is the youth.
Yeah.
We've talked about it with other people, and you mentioned it, and you have a very unique perspective because you have children from various different age groups, and so one of the things that we have seen is the loss of not just organizations like yours that for funding and or collaboration, the schools. They used to teach these things, and now they don't. So it was the easiest thing to cut. So if you look at your career, your children's careers in school, 20 years ago, and the access that they had to these programs or to these, groups or to these communities, and then now look at your youngest one, and what does Joaquin have for infrastructure in those areas? My son's 14, and there's nothing. And I don't know, this is where it starts and has to start, is at the school level. And then that's what creates the clubs that then they want to continue and then they want to embrace. And that's everybody that we've talked to on the artist side, they learned to love what they do at that early age. And from there, it was connections that kept it going, and then they eventually became professionals. Right, Steve?
I went to the
Hopefully.
theater for the first time in Chile during the dictatorship. And
Actually,
sorry.
I did want to go back. I want to
Yeah.
find out more about you.
Sure.
And even before you talk about that, which may be the beginning, I don't know. I've heard little stories, but I want to find out more about how you started out. Like what Isabel was like when she was 5 years old. Like what was your environment? What were you growing up with? And then and we'll just take it from there.
Sure. I feel like I want to share something that I've never shared publicly, because it's been on my mind a lot lately. And it is the fact that I was abducted 51 years ago. I was abducted, like many children in the dictatorship years between 1973 and the 80s. 40,000 children were abducted and sent to Europe to be illegally adopted in Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Germany. I was rescued, and even though I don't have any recollection of it, I've been trying to piece that moment together, because it started coming back a little bit when the commission was built for the investigation and the research of all these human rights violations that were done during the dictatorship, because a lot of people remember the torture, the murder that disappeared. But many of them don't realize that also there was an illegal human trafficking that started in 1973 and it stopped many years later. And so I was a little girl. I was almost 1. I still didn't walk. And I was abducted next to my brother, who was 8 years older than me. And I was taken away. And did you remember in the 70s, people walk with their ghetto blaster on their shoulder? It was really cool to do that. So because we were in this this beach that was very popular, there was a radio show that was being broadcasted live from this beach. That was very common in those areas. They started broadcasting, that this little girl was missing. These are the looks and the curly. I had little black curly hair a little bit, and what I was wearing for swimsuit and so on. And a couple of hours later, these 2 young women were entering the train to go to Santiago from Quintero, where this happened. And then they saw me, and they had the ghetto blaster, and then they heard the news, and then they took me away from the woman.
Oh, wow.
And I was retrieved and brought to the police station, where they contacted my dad, and then after that, my parents were so traumatized. They left, and they never went back to that city. And as my brother, my brother passed away 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago. And when he was sick, I had this conversation with him when he knew he was going to die. And we were talking about all the things that he regretted, and we were talking about life, And he said that he had been so traumatized by that moment because he felt always so responsible. What would have happened if
an 8-year-old?
If he wouldn't have, if I hadn't been returned?
Yeah. Wow.
And I hadn't given it a lot of thought. But lately has been in the news a lot because there have been so many reunifications of people my age that are going back to Chile to meet their parents or their siblings for the first time. And many of them don't speak Spanish because they were raised in
other countries,
Switzerland. But there is always a need to return, and there is always a need for belonging, and there is always a need to know where you're from.
The roots.
Exactly. And so that was sort of my first introduction to the dictatorship. And then later, I had lots of different things that I witnessed during that time. But one of the things that marked my adulthood and my life here in Canada was that I was in grade 6, and I had a teacher, and I was a very odd kid because I had moved it was grade 7. I had moved from the north to Santiago, and so with my classmates, I was very odd to them. My teacher saw something in me and invited me to be part of this group of 6 kids that were going to be leaders in the classroom. And our job, and my school was incredibly supportive of Pinochet, and anything that anyone did to provide any kind of support to someone else was seen as socialism or communism, or you were punished for that.
Yeah.
So my teacher was so brave that quietly he trusted all the students to not say anything, to not write them out. And the 6 of us would go weekly to a this daycare that had no financing from the government because it was in a very, very reactive neighborhood. And to punish that neighborhood for their activism, they didn't have any funding for their daycare. So the children were going hungry every day. And so my teacher brought the 6 of us every week to bring rice, to bring pasta.
Oh my goodness.
So at
What a
that
teacher.
most amazing teacher. Yeah, and you know, the first time I saw the kids being so hungry, it kind of ignited something in me. I remember that we started with these campaigns. We would make the little rice campaign, this and that, and then so we put it at a level up, and he told us, we are going to go and see a play, but you can't tell anyone where we're going. And we said yes, because we trusted him. We actually went to a house, and we knocked on the door, and we went inside that house, and it was a proper theater inside that house. And then we saw a play that, you know, in English they had, I think the movie was called Il Postino, and it was the life of Neruda, Pablo Neruda. Yeah, the postman.
Yeah.
And I saw it. That was my first ever play that I saw live, and it was about the life of Neruda when he was exiled in Italy. And it was a love story. And it was subversive for the times. It was incredibly ballsy to be there.
Yeah.
Because if anyone found out, all of us would have been, you know, in big trouble. And so would he, right? Mm-hmm. And when I saw that play, and I was, at that point, I think I was 12, 13 years old, it opened my heart to something that I couldn't understand. I didn't know what it was. And then I signed up for drama for the school. And this is the thing.
This is how you got into the arts?
Imagine the impact that a drama class had in the school. Right. That was so well done. The plays that we put on, I mean, seriously, not dissing the school plays here, but they look like so mediocre to what we used to put on, because they were really big, you know, stages, and people work so hard for this. And a professor from the university saw me in one of the plays, and he recruited me to go to university. So I went to study with adults for almost 4.5 years.
In drama?
Drama.
Yeah.
I went to drama school at the university level. And so I did my high school and my university at the same time. And when I came to Canada in March of 1991, I would have been a semester and a half to graduate with a full. I had a full scholarship.
Yeah.
The thing is, there I learned to throw stones, to go into the protest. And I went with all my classmates that were all adults by then. And I learned also the impact that street theater had for children in the parks. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing street theater, which was against the law at that time.
In Santiago?
Yeah, in Santiago.
Santiago. Okay.
And we used to put on performances where we were talking about the Red Riding Hood. It was the Red Riding Hood, right? Looked very innocent, except for everyone knew who the wolf was.
Right.
And everybody knew who was the people, the people who were at the mercy of the wolf.
Right.
And so we twisted a few words and would turn it into something political. And then we would have the police chasing us and beating us and all of that stuff. We did that to the moment where I had to make a choice. I had to leave the country, and I had to come, either go somewhere and to be safe. So my life has been, and I've never forgotten, my life in Canada has been twice as long as my life in Chile. Mm-hmm. But those years have impacted the entire course of my life. When I designed...
It's a platform. It's everything you do.
My programming, and that's why I say I'm an activist, an artist. I'm an artivist. because I don't see anything for the sake of entertainment. I don't program things because I think it would be cool to have a band from, Morocco or from Cameroon. I do it because I know that there is a community out here that needs to see that needs to feel reflected, that needs to be validated.
Yeah.
I work with professionals, and I do a lot of community work, but the bulk of my work is with professional artists because I want the person who has no access to art in schools or a family who have they don't have the social economic status to take them to a venue like the Center in the Square.
Or to music lessons.
Or music lessons.
Theater
I want them to
or,
go and see the exact same thing that the kids of, Balsili would see.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the art is a human right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just for blah, 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 because it's in the Human Rights Declaration. It is a human right.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that everyone should have access to it, and everybody should have access to high caliber art.
Mm-hmm.
Not because you come from, an underprivileged background, you get to cut little cutouts of paper mache.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should be able to aim to be an artist too, if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So my life, my political life is so intertwined. Those experiences that I lived in Chile, for good or bad, because some of them are really hurtful. And it's taken me a long time to sort of build that. I built the wall, actually, but in 2020 it came crashing down, right? I did have a nervous breakdown when the political uprising started in Chile again. And because I had built that wall and I had worked my feeling that I could make an impact here, but somehow forget about that, forget about what had happened there. And then at one moment I felt, honestly, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it even worth it? Does anyone care? Does it even have any impact? Am I just doing art for a few privileged people that can afford to come to a concert? Am I doing a festival for the same old to come and see? I had a lot of doubt that I was actually making a dent or even shifting a little bit the metrics of inclusion.
So obviously you came out of that.
With some medication.
Yeah. Did you go to Ed?
Well, that too, but no.
Some good coffee.
No,
Good
you know what
God,
happened is, you come to Canada where a lot of things can be expected. And there is some kind of, routine that you can get into or some comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But everything comes crashing down when all of this stuff was happening to me and I was a teenager, right? Teenager involved in adult things. There were no cameras, there were no phones. It was all in my head. All those memories were in my head and they lived there far, far back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie knows I'm not a person who likes to cry or complain about anything. But I do have my moments, right? My dark moments. And somehow I had managed to kind of coast without having to talk too much about it. But
I think that's important, though. I mean, everybody, and Dan O'Toole was mentioning this, everybody has mental illness episodes, times when they're weaker, not stronger.
Absolutely.
And you need to allow yourself to do that.
I think it was 2019 October when the whole uprising started again. But for the very first time, I could see on TV girls just like me being grabbed by the hair, being beaten, being shot in the eyes. And all the things that were happening, it became almost an addiction. And I had to watch. And I couldn't pull myself away. And I started to not sleep at night, started to wake up in sweats. And then all of a sudden, I realized I have a problem because I can't function. And I mean,
Did you
I'm hurt.
compartmentalize this and then put it back in the vaults? Tried to keep it protected, not.
Not anymore. I think that was a pivotal time where I had to recognize that all these things did happen to me.
You had to open the vault. You had to let
Because-
those things out.
Exactly, because they lived in this cloud
Yeah.
of information where I could distort it sometimes to my liking, so that it would fit my mood and so that it wouldn't hurt me. But then when that happened, and I realized I do have a problem because I haven't dealt with it. It's been 30 years, and
Right.
I haven't dealt with what happened to me.
Right.
And I was in the midst of writing a play, and I said to Patty, who was doing this festival of obscure plays, and she had invited me to write a play, and I was like, no, I can't. I cannot finish this play because I'm actually unable to even think or write or anything. And she said, well, with more reason, I'm not letting you off the hook.
Nice.
And your name is in the poster, and now you got to do it.
It seems to be a regular theme is that there's somebody else that sees that you've fallen to a place that you need help getting up.
I hated her for it.
I bet you did, but
And-
you love her now.
But I didn't want to let her down. So
Yeah.
at the end, I wrote my play and I performed it.
Yeah.
And I finished it the night before it was to open.
Wow.
And it was a little bit of that cathartic moment where I realized now I need to look at who I am, what happened, not brush it off,
Right.
and deal with those pains that got mixed for the very first time with my pain of leaving Chile. Because for the longest time, I had convinced myself that I came here with my own, 2 suitcases and $60 American to build this amazing life. I had convinced myself that I came because I wanted to be here and because I wanted to make a difference and all this blah, 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 blah. That was my story, and I was very convincing. But then, for the very first time, I had to realize, no, I didn't come because I really wanted. I came because I really didn't have a choice.
Right.
And, a lot of people ask you when you have an accent, where are you from? And some of them want to hear the story and some of them don't. I mean, it's just like their where are you from is like, how are you, right? And often when people ask me, why did you come to Canada? Oh, I had like 5 different versions of it, depending on who it was. For love, for studying, for work, anything. But for the first time, I had to realize that in all the things that I've done and people, could praise me for here in terms of work, in terms of my commitment to the community, I lost so much. I gained a community, I gained the respect of people, but I lost all these years away from my family. I lost growing up with the rest of my siblings. I lost my sisters, my brother. I lost seeing nephews and nieces. And I lost that my children didn't have a sense of extended family. For the first time, I had to put in a real balance what
but
my
really,
loss
had
was.
you stayed, could you have done that? Could you have had the family that you have now? Could you have the successes? Could you have, you almost had to leave for some reason that made it possible to do some other things. And as a result of that, at least you have, I shouldn't say at least because you have 3 wonderful kids. You have a community that is at least here, and it in itself is hungry. We would love for it to be bigger, and that's the goal and the objective. But that's the other side of the coin, right?
I
My
guess
son lives out in Edmonton.
you would never know,
now.
right?
Yeah, you never
mean-
know. My son with my grandson lives in Edmonton. We don't get to see him. but he has to be there because there's no jobs here for him.
Yeah.
And that's the only way he can have that life, and his wife can have a wonderful life. And but it's a sacrifice that you have to make. But I understand exactly what you're saying, that when you were trying to recap or understand why you came, and you made all of these stories about who you thought you were, they were stories. And you're coming to terms now with really what it means.
And in a way, it also, when you actually face the truth.
Yes, facing the truth.
I faced my truth, and there were parts of it that I didn't like. But also, it made me feel that now I am more honest with myself. And now I don't need to, now I can say, that what I do, it has a different purpose. I told Eddie one time, in my earlier years with Neruda Arts, I felt that I identify so much with my work, and my work was my identity.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see myself parting with that, because otherwise, what was I?
Mm-hmm.
My self-esteem was completely tied
Mm-hmm.
to that organization that I had created step by step and all of that, with that vision. But in the last few years, and especially since that moment, I realized that the reason why I did a lot of these things were not selfless. I wanted my children to have access to the world and to work, live, and spend their lives in a community that embraced diversity and inclusion. Because I didn't see it when I came. I built that for my kids.
Wow.
And when many of, I've had conversations with them, and every once in a while I say, I wanna be done. I'm tired. And then my daughter will remind me, so where would the other kids, if you don't have Kultron, if you don't have the stuff that you do, the other children like us, where do they go?
Right.
Right? So.
But being honest with yourself about why you did it helps you move forward then, right? And your daughter, obviously other people, like they can, who came in on the journey and who have been along the journey, along the way, have been able to lift you up and clarify.
They saw
with
me,
truth, though.
Exactly, and they saw me fight.
Yeah.
And they saw me, knock on lots of doors. And they also saw me when the doors were like shut in my face.
Yeah.
So if anything, they have grown, seen that nothing is like hunky-dory, that there were ups and downs and there were rejections. But I didn't give up. And I think that's the end. That's the best I can get out of that story.
Yeah.
Is that I didn't take a no for an answer. When I came to Canada, well, I was a proper actor. I had worked in theater, professional theater in Chile. I worked on the streets. I had done a thesis in Shakespeare. And people here were talking to me like I was an idiot.
Yeah.
They were speaking very loudly, very slowly, asking me if I knew who Shakespeare was. So
the prejudices were like face front.
My outlook when I came was, okay, it doesn't matter if I have an accent. I'm gonna be on TV. I'm gonna, work on in movies or theater. And the first thing that I got the first few years was, no, we don't do things like that here. We don't have actors with accents. We don't have people on radio with accents. We don't have people on commercials with accents. We don't have people in movies with accents. This is 1991, right? And there was a lot of like,
sad.
this is
But
not.
Does it surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me.
I mean, one of the things. Let me slow down here a little bit. Is this moment that you talk about or that you just spoke about? It's kind of like that FML moment where for you, all of a sudden, the reality of the past came together with the future and the present all at once. And how do you cope with that? And you've managed with medication, you've managed to, and coffee. And kidding aside, but it's a common theme for all of us to run into this brick wall of unsurmountable or insurmountable challenges, and that either we strip it down to the basics to understand what it is that happened and why, whether it comes from history, whether it comes from present, whether it comes from the past or from the actual. But adding to that is one of the things that is very, I'm a child of the world because I grew up in different countries and I got stripped away from what normal was several times. So you start to see a different picture. And one of the things that you do get here in Canada is the tranquility, the peace, and the calm of safety. But behind that mask of safety, there is a reticence to change. There is an absolute brick wall against anybody speaking out, because this is how we created this idyllic society. We don't talk about anything. We don't let anything be talked about. We don't want, we don't want the exterior to taint our perfect little world. Mm-hmm. And when you have this perspective of the world and you add that on to all the other things, the atrocities that happen elsewhere make people grow up a little quicker, and they see a bigger world that's not as idyllic and as pleasant as the one that we've created here. Now, I've been here for 20 years and I'm Canadian, and I am proud to be Canadian. But I've always felt that the youth in this country have been so coddled that they don't understand the harshness of what the world brings. And people like Isabel, who came from the complete opposite, found sanctuary. But it's a strange thing. It's like the Wizard of Oz. At one point, you get to peek behind that curtain and realize, oh my God, there's just strings being pulled. Mm-hmm. And so those moments, by injecting culture and perspective, it opens up this conversation to everybody else. And it should be talked about, and we should consider, and we should dialogue and converse about these things, because a lot of the times people that are from the outside feel shut out by coming here.
My perspective on this, having been, white male, old, but strangely an outsider, so when I came here, it was pockets of cultures. So you had the German culture, you had the Portuguese, and they all had their own little pockets. And when they came to Canada, they would seek out their own nationality. Where's the biggest congregation of our nationality, so that we can keep our culture moving, keep our languages going, keep our ideals connected and our memories alive. So that's 1970 when I came here. Since then, I've seen these pockets as generations grow and jobs disperse and people have to move. Those subcultures then start disappearing, and you have this big mix of everybody you've got a third generation culture that has no roots anymore. They remember going to the fest halls with their German grandparents, or they remember going to the Portuguese hall with their Portuguese grandparents, but they're not involved in the culture anymore. And so we have a cultureless society now. And what the beauty of having those pockets of culture is that you got to experience. Way back in the 70s and 80s, they used to have this thing in Brantford where it was food of the world, and you'd have you'd travel from one gymnasium at one school to another, and you'd experience the food of one culture and another, and it was like, whoa, how cool it was to have stories that threaded back to grandparents and great-grandparents and culture and different foods, where they came from, how they were made, that sort of thing. It's getting washed out. And what you're doing with Neruda Arts and what Ed's doing with his tours in Colombia and with coffee and the different areas and trying to bring that culture back in, is to try to bring some of those highlights and the focus on how rich a culture can be. So, this is the first time we're doing this. We're breaking this one up into 2 episodes. We got so engrossed in listening and learning from Isabel that before we knew it, we were already at 2 hours. So in keeping with the goal to stay within 1 hour on our episodes, we're making this a 2-episode podcast. In this one, we learned about Isabel and her amazing history. In the next episode, we will hear about her festivals, the impact, and the strength of community and the experience she gained and those around her also gained. Please join us next week to hear Isabel's perspective on how we can strengthen our region. Thanks for joining us.
You know that feeling when a track just hits? That's Eco Coffee's signature blend espresso. It's been the undisputed leader of our espresso bar since the jump, and we're not changing the set list. Why mess with perfection? This isn't some fleeting B-side, it's a chart-topping shot that's bright, balanced, and sweet with a crema so smooth it's practically a baseline. No remixes needed.